society? Is it because people could get fired from work for discussing these things, or what?
Sure, sure. I mean, let's face it. Most Americans think they have free speech. If you go on the job tomorrow and say whatever you want to say about race, you don't have free speech. They'll fire you. So you don't have free speech. You have an illusion of free speech on most subjects. It is a closed society, just like the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union said we own the truth on economics. It has to be scientific materialism. The United States, Anglosphere, and many other Western countries are saying we own the truth on race. You're just a social construct. That type of thing. But they're saying we own the truth. A closed society operates off we own the truth, and you cannot question our flat Earth.
It's not up for
Can't
debate.
question it.
Yes.
That's not up for debate. They're not debating. You won't hear. Bob Whitaker was on Fox News once, in some station in South Carolina. They don't like having him on. People in Washington don't like he's out there, but they can't really do anything about it because we play by the rules. Well, we don't break rules.
And you make the point that that's the way to do it because basically no revolution within our time that's been successful has been violent or open. It's always been done by playing within the system, playing within the rules.
Right, that is the game. That is why so many people get frustrated by it. The reason you've been frustrated by it over the last 10 years, and the reason you're just hearing me now, is it wasn't time for me to talk 10 years ago. When you have a demoralized society, a society that has really just had their brain cooked, basically, their brain scrambled, it takes 15 years to undo that. And I go into this on Follow the White Rabbit. I go into how demoralization works. I go into why we're talking now. It's 15 years since the internet was created. You're no longer demoralized. You're asking questions.
Yeah, you really believe that things have turned around as far as well, you say the demoralization. When did that start? About the 60s?
Oh, right after World War II, I believe, and Lord Nelson has some ideals on that, I believe. But demoralization started World War II as soon as Hitler came out and said, "Well, race is everything," and now all of a sudden they were anti-Hitler, you know.
Right.
So they did the direct opposite. 180 instead of just tweaking things, trying to become more civil about race. What they did was they did a 180.
Right.
They said we have to
Yes.
blend white rabbits out of existence because they're all inherently racist and fascist and yada yada yada.
Right.
And that's why everyone listening to this, if you mention race, you're always compared to a Nazi.
Right. Lord Nelson, go ahead. You had something you wanted to say in that?
Yeah, we sort of become a mirror image of the illusion or the propaganda of the Nazis. I'm not any Nazi or any big fan of the Nazis, but we're told to believe that everyone had to be 6.5 foot tall with blonde hair and blue eyes. Well, Adolf Hitler was 5'6". Nothing had blonde hair. And the idea that, I mean, they may have the point is we become an exact mirror image of what we're supposed to hate. And we're a mirror image of something that didn't really exist in the first place. You know, I'm not saying the Nazis were a nice regime, but we're a mirror image of the propaganda of the Nazis. So we'll become something even more hideous than what the Nazis were supposed to be, because at least Hitler didn't want to exterminate all the black people in Africa. But modern society, American, European, established government and media of all modern Western countries, they do want to wipe out like Europeans, even in Europe, through mass non-white immigration and assimilation into all white countries and only into white countries. Now the point of this is, there is no point in trying to justify your right to exist. If someone's trying to kill you, you don't argue with them that you're a very nice person and blah blah blah. I'm not advocating violence here. What I'm trying to say is, there's no point in trying to justify. There's no point in talking about black crime stats or anything like that. If someone's trying to justify the extermination of white people, you've got to accuse them of being a brainwashed anti-white racist. Do it the way Horace has described so eloquently, but do not try and justify. Just attack them back. You know, call them names. They call you a white supremacist. Call them an anti-white racist.
Right.
And back it up.
Right. Now, this is an interesting dynamic, Horace, with the image that we have today that's been created of World War II and of Nazi Germany and stuff. And I think this is if you could take a minute, and this is a great time to kind of describe the problem, reaction, solution dynamic.
Oh man. Well, what they've done is they've created a problem. Let me go in certain places on the east coast of America. They bring in all kinds of Somali Muslims, and they create a problem of Somali Muslims or these non-Europeans in otherwise European homes, and then there's a reaction. And what they're trying to do is say that healthy reaction should be guilty and should be bad, and then the solution is, of course, to create a blended humanity in only white children's homes, in only white children's country. That is a problem reaction solution they're going with. The problem is that it hasn't worked.
Right. But this idea, because I never heard of this before I listened to your show, the problem reaction solution, is that you introduce a problem, you actually create a problem in order to get a certain reaction and then implement the solution that you're trying to achieve.
That's correct. That's correct. You're going to create a problem to create a reaction to get a solution. I can't remember exactly what I went to on Follow the White Rabbit because I do this mentally. I know what they're doing. Well, let me give you Let me give you one right in front of your face.
Yeah, give us another example.
Okay. What they've done is they've created a problem. They've created a problem with Muslim immigration into the West. The Hebrews were running this game. They're going to flood the West with Islam. Then you've got the antithesis. So you have a thesis, but an antithesis, the direct opposite. Then you go to war against Islam, right? And then there's a synthesis. There's a problem, and there's a reaction. You go to war against Islam to end radical Islam. But there's a synthesis. And the synthesis they want is, of course, World War III and this giant war with the Muslims. When the West goes to clear out the Muslims, they can expand Greater Israel. It's a problem to get a reaction to get a solution. It won't work that way for them. But this is the type of thinking.
Right, and this is the type of thinking that our opposition is pretty natural from them. And but as you mentioned there, sometimes it can cause unintended problems. You can start a little brush fire with this.
Oh, everything. When you know your enemy, and your allies. You have allies. Little white rabbits have allies. Just because you don't think they're there, they're there. Every time little white rabbits see the little white rabbit sheeple a mile behind them, you have to remember that there's one's mile ahead of you. That's just natural law. Just because you don't see them, don't think they're there. But you can trip someone up big time. Because if you think someone's going to run problem, reaction, solution, let's say in ancient Egypt, they flood Egypt with Africans, and then there's a reaction, they created guilt, and they end up blending themselves out of existence. That's not necessarily going to work this time.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, something you just alluded to here is that perhaps it's not just our enemy that's running problem, reaction, solution, but we have people on our side that we may not see. They may not be out in the open, but they're running this game too.
Sure, of course you do. We're not, don't think that you don't have someone on your side. You know, we play a simple game. I introduce a simple game. Me a white rabbit, you a white rabbit. This is a very simple game. But if you know your enemy's in powerful position and they're going to flood the place with immigrants, oh, well, then you can work another angle on that too. Sure you can, because we'll come up with a different solution that they won't like.
Right, and that's interesting because I've been talking to a guy pretty recently. He's an American, but he lived over there in England for a while. And Lord Nelson, you're over there in England, and he talked about how he thinks that actually bringing in tons of Pakistanis into England is probably the smartest thing that they can do, and he's using that problem reaction solution dynamic because you're bringing in non-whites that are so backwards and so strong into their religion and everything, and they have such alien customs that there's no way that they could possibly assimilate. And if you're going to try to eventually cause a reaction to stop immigration, the best kind of immigrant to bring in would be ones that are so foreign.
I agree with that in many respects because it's a story of the frog in a pan of boiling water, isn't it? You know, if you just turn the heat up slowly, the frog will be boiled to death. But you got the frog straight in the boiling water, the frog will leap straight out and survive. By flooding the country so fastly and so obviously, and also the illusion of anti-white racism is that the white Europeans will be morphed or replaced into some single ethnic coloured ethnic entity. The reality is the world is not black and white. The non-white races are divided into many different groups. And the reality is that one specific ethnic group will take over. In America, it's looking like becoming the Mexicans. In Europe, it's looking like becoming North African Muslims. And what people can see is that we're not morphing into a multiracial, multicultural utopian paradise. We're simply morphing into an Islamic state.